Rebuilding after infidelity. This is the question I get all the time as a relationship coach. And I've worked with a lot of clients who have endeavored to rebuild after infidelity. If you decide that after infidelity that you want to try to work it out, you want to rebuild it, I'm going to give you the steps. Hey, I'm Coach Ken. Listen, I want you to subscribe to our channel. If you like content like this, relationship content that helps empower people, and also click the notification bell so when we drop a new video, look, you'll be notified first. All right, so let's get busy. I'm on a national TV show, highly rated, called Unfaithful, Caught in the Act. And every single week on the show, I deal with people who have experienced infidelity. Some on different levels. It does not matter what level it is, what type of relationship it is. At the end of the day, it's still the same thing. Infidelity hurts. Infidelity is catastrophic. You know why? Because everything you've ever believed about your world is no longer true. You believed something about the relationship. You believed something about your partner. And now everything about that has been shattered. Now the question is, a million questions run through your mind. Why did they do it? Is there something wrong with me? What did I do wrong? How did we end up here? Now, those answers are going to vary depending on the type of relationship. But in this video, I'm going to show you the steps necessary to rebuild. If you have decided, you know what, I want to do this again. I want to see if we can make this work. Now, I'm going to be honest. Some people can and some people can't. Some people will just never be able to get over it. But there are many people who do, and the relationship comes back better, stronger. But there are some things that I need you to know before we go into the process, because the process works. I've helped people on the brink of divorce bring it back and have a better relationship. But there's some things that you got to know before we go into this process. The first thing that you have to know is simply this. You can never rebuild what we once had. Never. That is gone. It's dead. Now you can build something new, something better, something more intimate. You can, but you will never go back to what we once had. Number two, the second thing you got to understand is this process is emotional and not logical. See, what I found out as a relationship coach is people try to make logical sense of an emotional problem. You're wanting to ask, why did the person do it? Why did they cheat on me? I thought everything was good. Well, that's emotional, but you're trying to make logical sense out of it. This process is emotional. And for some people who don't like to be emotional, this is going to be difficult for them, but I'm going to show you. And the next thing you need to understand is that you're going to experience, speaking of emotions, a wide range of emotions on a daily basis. Some days you're going to be angry. Some days you're going to be sad. Some days you're going to be up thinking, you know, I'm optimistic. And then some days you're just wanting to just give up. But just understand that experiencing those emotions are normal, okay? And the last part of it is you got to be committed to the process. You can't say, I'm on one day, I'm off the next day. Now you can think it, I get it, because you're going through it. But you got to say, you know what, for X number of time, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, I'm going to commit to this process. And commit to this process, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to give it my all. And at the end of this time frame, if it doesn't work, if I can't get over it, then you know what? I'm done. All right? So let's get busy. So I'm here with my board, my digital board. I know you might be like, I want to break this down in an easy way so that your mind can understand it, all right, in a practical way. But so I'm breaking this down into 3 steps. Number 1, what the cheater has to do to rebuild the trust, restore the relationship, all right? And number two, then what the cheating victim has to do. What is their responsibility? And then what is the responsibility of both parties? So let's get busy. So I want you to think of it. I want you to think of a relationship like a mountain. I call this trust mountain. In every relationship, to get to a level, we have to build a level of trust. That's what it is. And I'm going to show you what we're doing to build that trust along the way. Now, I came up with this analogy when I first got on the show, Unfaithful, Caught in the Act, and I thought about it. How does it work? How do we build after infidelity? It's like a mountain, right? So here's how it works. So think of when you're in a relationship. At the beginning of the relationship, you're way down here at the base of the mountain. And so you gotta go all the way up to get to the top of this mountain right here. This is the top of the mountain. And everything you do helps you. When you honor your word, you move up the mountain. Okay? When you follow through with what you say you're going to do, you move up the mountain. Okay? And every interaction over the years helps you climb Trust Mountain. Boop, 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 boop. You're up the mountain. Right? And so at some point in the relationship, you get to the point where your partner trusts you implicitly. Your partner says, you know what? I trust them. I am not worried about them. I'm not looking at what they're doing. All of that. You've arrived at the pinnacle of Trust Mountain. All right? Now, so all of the things I've invested in the relationship gives me this trust equity. Okay. You understand that? Everything you do helps you go up the mountain. Now, why? There are some things, so let's say you don't honor your word or you lie. You might fall a little bit off a Trust Mountain, depending on the person. You may fall a little ways down, but you can climb back up, okay? The problem is that infidelity is the one thing that takes you from the top of the mountain all the way back down to the bottom. Now, here's why it does it. Here's what makes it so devastating. Because you've expended all of that energy, capital, trust capital. I call it trust capital that I gave the person to get to the top of the mountain. And when infidelity is present, you fall all the way to the bottom. And the person who's experienced it says, all of my capital, my trust capital has been expended. And now I don't trust you at all. So we're back at the base of the mountain. All right. So as I told you, I'm going to divide this up into 3 parts. But I got to show you what happens, how you get back up the mountain, up Trust Mountain. All right. So here it goes. Now think about it like this. So now we're trying to get back up Trust Mountain. All right, we're trying to get back up Trust Mountain. And you want to know, how do you rebuild a relationship? So these are the actual steps you go through. So the first thing at the bottom of the base, the first thing you have to do to start your climb back up Trust Mountain, you must accept full accountability and responsibility for what you've done. You cannot, listen to me carefully, you cannot say, well, I did this because the person didn't give me any sex. I did this because the person wasn't showing me any attention. What you're doing is you're making your decision the victim's fault. Because you did it, you are blaming someone else. You are absolving yourself of your responsibility. And the other person hears that. So they can never allow you to go back up Trust Mountain because you have never taken full responsibility. The best thing you do, what starts the journey, is, and you apologize for what you've done earnestly, not because you got caught, but because you are literally hurting because, number one, you've done something that hurt someone else, and you never wanted to do this to ruin or impede your own relationship. And how do you take responsibility? Responsibility and accountability. You accept accountability. You say, it's no one else's fault. It is mine alone. It is my decision, and I am responsible for rebuilding this relationship, for rebuilding and restoring the trust we once had. If for any reason, listen to me carefully, for any reason you say, I did this because, Now, I get it. There are reasons why you did it. I get that. But if you say you did it because, and other than I did it because I'm selfish, I did it because I made a bad decision, other than basing it on you, then you can never go back up Trust Mountain. So that's the first step. Then, and the other person has to believe that you are remorseful, not because you got caught, but you are remorseful because you did damage to the relationship. So the second thing is, now it's going to be slow going. It's going to be slow going. When I tell you it's going to be slow going up Trust Mountain, because think about it. I don't trust you anymore. You're not a safe space. You're a place where I don't know what to believe. I may still love you, but I don't trust you. I don't care if one day I look happy and I look like I'm ready to go back. I still don't trust you. Okay? So don't make the assumption that the other person trusts you because they're not in despair, because they're not depressed. They don't trust you because you're at the base of the mountain. The second thing you have to do is this. Oh, you have to be transparent. Now, let me show you this. You have to be transparent. What is transparent? Transparency is different from honesty. I'll say it again. Transparency is different from honesty. You see, honesty is you tell the truth when a person asks you. Your partner asks you, where are you going? Because you think about it, remember, the partner don't trust you. The partner doesn't know doesn't know where you're going, don't know what you're doing. Where are you going? Where you at? Where you been? What are you planning on doing? And the partner is speaking out of lack of trust. So that's honesty. You tell the partner where you're going. But transparency is you tell the partner before they ask. Transparency is, I'm going here, honey. I will be back in 30 minutes. If I am not back in 30 minutes, I will call you. That is transparency. Transparency means that my life is an open book now. And if your life is not an open book, and what happens if your life is not an open book, you're never going to start rising up Trust Mountain. But if your partner sees that you are transparent about everything. Now, let's be honest. It may get old to you. You may say, how long do I have to go? Well, the truth is, there was a study once that said that a person who has experienced trauma, and this is trauma, betrayal trauma, a person who has experienced trauma, sometimes it can take 2 to 5 years of consistent behavior by the partner for the other person to believe that it's a safe space again. So I can't tell you how long it's going to be, but what I can tell you, if you commit to the process, it will be over when it's over. But you have to be transparent about it, much more than honesty. Now this is important. Here's an important part about transparency. This is the part I take a breath, and here's why. Because your partner, the one who was cheated on, is going to ask you all kinds of questions. Every question about the affair, every question about the way they did it sexually, every question about everything. No question, because their mind is racing. Their mind is trying to make sense of all this. So they feel like subconsciously, if I ask a number of questions, these questions are going to give me answers to what I need. The truth is, none of those questions are going to satisfy the person's yearning, hurting. It's not. They think it will, but it won't. But you, the person who's done the offense, who's committed the offense, must be willing. Transparency must be willing to answer every single question. I don't care how many times they ask it. I don't care how many ways they ask it. If you are committed to the process, you got to be willing to answer. If they ask you, and listen, if she asks you how large the man's penis was, you got to be willing to answer it. Now listen. There are ways to be diplomatic about things, and let me express this. If somebody asks you a question, this is for the person who's been cheated on. Let's say they ask you a question that you feel like might lead to more damage, anger, sadness. Here's how you do it. And they ask you the question. The thing you want to do is you say, listen, I will be glad to answer the question. However, I think it may cause more pain in our relationship. Is it okay if I don't answer that question now? We maybe answer it later. I mean, I'm just saying you can ask that, but you don't have to. But if the person persists, you got to be willing to answer it. Okay? And that helps you go up trust mountain. It helps the other person understand that, you know what, this person wants to rebuild. Now, so you're riding up the mountain, you're rebuilding trust, you're going slow. It's going slow. Then you get up the mountain, and I say the third part of the mountain is what we call follow through. Listen to me carefully. Anything you say you're going to do, you got to do it. If you say you're going to cut the grass on Friday at 4 o'clock, I don't care what happens. If you can't cut it, you hire somebody to cut it. That means the grass is getting cut. Because the other person has a trust deficit about you following through and honoring your word. And so if you say you want to take the kids, I don't take the kids to the park. You say you want to take the kids to school, and even though you are tired, you get up and you take the kids to school. Because if you don't honor your word, the other person is not willing to let you go up trust mountain. You know why? Because I won't trust that you will honor your word to me. And so follow through is extremely important. Oh, need I say, I forgot to say the most important thing. The most important thing at the base of the mountain, I just made an assumption. The base of the mountain, I got to go back here. When you get down here, before you accept accountability, you got to rid yourself, completely cut off the affair. Completely cut off the infidelity, the partner. You got to block them. You got to delete the number. You got to do all of those things. I forgot about that part. I just assumed that we knew to cut it off. No! If you are in the vicinity, if you work with the person, then you're going to have to get another job or go to another department. Because if you don't completely eradicate the person that you eradicate the interaction with the person that you've been committing it with, it ain't gonna work. I'm gonna be honest. I want to be honest here. Some people can have an affair at work, and they think that, no, I'm not going to have an affair, but I can still work there and work in the same department with the person that I cheated with. Yes, you can do that. The problem with that is the trust, climbing trust mountain, there's always going to be doubt. There's always going to be fear of what kindled that will rekindle it. If you don't completely cut off the oxygen, what I mean by completely cut off the oxygen, nothing lives if you cut off the oxygen, right? Cut off the oxygen supply. What is the oxygen supply? Phone number gone. Social media gone. No contact. None of that. If you're not willing to do that part of it, then at the end of the day, it's not going to work. You can never get up Trust Mountain. Ever. You will never be able to get up Trust Mountain. So I just wanted to throw that in about that part of it. Now, so when we get to follow through, you're climbing the mountain. The other person has said, you know what? I'm willing to let you climb this mountain. You've done what you followed through. You've taken accountability. You cut off the affair. You've been transparent, not just honest, but transparent. You followed through on the things that you said. And so now I see it. We're rebuilding. There's some things that Coach Ken told us to do to rebuild it, but I'm climbing Trust Mountain. I'm climbing. And so the last part of Trust Mountain is time. See, you can't account for time. Time, because think about it like this. When you've experienced this betrayal, you're going through the phases of grief. But grief is the loss of something or someone. Because when a person experiences grief, they experience denial, sadness, anger, all of these emotions, regret. And here's the thing. A person has to experience it. And see, what you can't account for, you can't account for how long that takes. Would it be inappropriate if a loved one of yours died? And that loved one died and I said, well, you need to be over it by now. Get over it. Okay, you grieved for 2 months. That's it. That would be inappropriate, wouldn't it? It's inappropriate the same way it is for betrayal, because infidelity, because the person has lost who they thought you were. And so because of that, this time factor, you got to be willing to let the time pass and keep doing the things. Now, during the time passing, we can't have no hiccups. We can't have the person calling you, you reaching out, and the other person doesn't know. We can't have anything. Oh, you didn't tell me that y'all did this. You didn't tell me you bought them a new car on our credit card. You didn't. And they cannot keep finding out new things. If they keep finding out new things that you never shared, that you were never transparent about, what's going to happen? You fall off Trust Mountain. And at that point, at some point, you will never be able to recover that. But let's say you've done all of these, you're willing to do all of these things.